Hello everyone, welcome back to another Board Gaming Life video. Today we're going to teach you how to play Kingdom Builder. Kingdom Builder is a wonderful Euro-style modern board game. It won the 2012 um, Spiel des Jahres award, which is German for Game of the Year. It is the most prestigious award that a board game or a board game designer can win. They don't just give that prize out to anybody. It's like winning the Oscar for board game designers, and this game won it back in 2012, and for good reason. It's a very simple game. It is, I think, one of the best games to introduce your non-gamer friends, people who've never played modern board games before. It's a great game to teach them, to introduce them, and bring them into the hobby of modern board games because it's incredibly simple. The rules are very easy. You can learn it in 10 minutes and get going, and the replayability is amazing, and you'll see what I mean by that. So first, let me teach you how to play this game. Um, there are, as you can see, this board, the game board, is made up. If you can see these black lines um, separating the four sections of the board, the game comes with eight rectangles. These sectors that make up the game board. And what you do at the beginning of the game, the computer's already done it for us. We randomly pick four. Sectors, and we put them together to create this game board. So we've got the top left sector here, the top right sector, the bottom left sector, and the bottom right sector. And every game's different because you can randomly pick four sectors and create basically brand new board for every game. Uh, the the game is played by taking your 40 settlements. They look like houses, but they're called settlements in the game, so I'll use that word. And basically, all you're doing is you're putting your settlements along on the hexagon shapes, the hexes along this board. You're trying to build your kingdom with your settlements. That's why it's called Kingdom Builder. There are 9 types of hexes on this board, and I want to bring your attention to those 9 types. The 9 types are, first of all, water, which is the blue type here, the black mountains over here, and then there's castles. There should be at least one on every one of the four sectors. That's a castle, that's a castle, 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 and then there's these location hexes, which are these hexes with pictures on them. This one's got a picture of an or of like a Stonehenge type structure. This one's got a picture of a tower on the top left. The one on the top right has a picture of horses inside a fence, and those are the location hexes. So those four hexes, the water, the mountains, the castles, and the location hexes, you cannot place your settlements on those four sectors. Okay. The other 5 types of sectors are the ones that you can place your settlements on. And let me tell you what those 5 sectors are. They're the light green farms, they're the dark green forests, the pink flower fields, the brown canyons, and the yellow deserts. So those are the 5 types of terrain that you can place your settlements on. And what you do on your turn is you take a look at on your turn. You draw one of the cards that have those 5 types of terrains on them: the light green, dark green, pink, brown, and yellow. You draw one of those cards, and you have to um, place three. You must place 3 of your settlements on that terrain type. And here's the rule for placements. The most important rule in the game is that you must place um, your settlements next to or adjacent to existing settlements if you can. So, for example, now it's the red player's turn, and the red player has drawn um, a dark green terrain type. So that means the red player must place 3 um, of their settlements on a dark green space. For example, they could do this. Now, since they don't currently have any settlements on the board, they can place their first settlement absolutely anywhere. So, for example, they could place it there. Okay, see the red house that just appeared on the board? They placed it. The red player placed their first settlement there. Now they have to place their second and third settlements. Well, since they've already got one settlement on this space, the second settlement that they place must be touching this first settlement. So, for example, I can go there. So the red player went there. and then, uh, for example, go there. And that's the red player's turn. You'll notice something interesting happened when the red player placed their third um, settlement adjacent or touching this location hex with the horses on them. One of the tiles that was on that location hex actually got taken and placed in the red player's uh, section. What that is, each of the location hexes contains two tiles at the beginning of the game, and as soon as one of your settlements touches a location hex, you get one of those tiles as long as there's tiles still remaining. And those tiles are, you can think of them as special powers. And we'll get into each of the tiles later. We'll explain them later. But they're special powers that you can use throughout the course of the game. You can't use them in the round that you get them, but on every future round till the end of the game, you're allowed to use each location tile once and to give you sort of additional powers that you don't normally have during the game. Right, so the red player who went first in this game has just finished their turn. They placed three of their settlements. As you can see in the red players area, they've only got 37 settlements left. Every player starts with 40 settlements. They've placed three, so they've got 37 left. It's now the green player's turn, and the green player has drawn a light green terrain type, and so that means that the green player has to um, place three of their settlements on a uh, light green terrain. And as you can see, all the possible places that the green player can go on have been highlighted for your convenience. And so what the green player is going to do, for example, let's say the green player goes here, he grabs one of these tower specialty tiles, right? And that is the green player's turn. So as you can see, the green player now also has 37 settlements remaining, and now it's the red player's turn, and the red player has drawn a yellow terrain tile, and so now the red players can place on any of the yellow tiles because he's not currently touching any yellow tiles, so he has free reign of the board. He can place on these yellow tiles or these down here or anywhere he likes. And the game keeps going back and forth like this until one player has used up all 40 of their settlements. At that point, as soon as that happens, that triggers the game end. The round is completed. So, for example, in this game, since the red player went first, it will be the green player who has the last turn of the game. That ensures that each player gets the same number of turns. And at that point, the game will be over and the scores will be calculated. The scores are calculated by in two ways. There's two ways of earning points in this game. The first way is the castles. So for every castle that's touched by a player, that player gets 3 points. So if any of your settlements are adjacent to any of the castles, that counts as touching, and that would be 3 points per every castle that you happen to be adjacent to at the end of the game. And then the second way of getting points is through these end of game kingdom builder cards, three of which are randomly selected for every game. For example, for this game, we have the knights, lords, and farmers uh, cards selected. These are the 10 Kingdom Builder cards. At the beginning of the game, we randomly pick three of these cards, show them to everyone, and then the game is played. At the end of the game, we give end of game points to each player, depending on how many points they got for each of these cards. So let me explain the 10 cards, starting from the top row, going left to right. First, we have Fisherman. Fisherman's pretty simple. All that does is it gives you 1 point at the end of the game for every single one of your settlements that's touching water. That's it. The Farmer's card, what you do with Farmers is at the end of the game, you look at each of the four sectors of the board and you calculate which of those sectors has the least number of your settlements. Whatever that number is multiplied by three, and you get that many points. So, for example, if you happen to have one sector that doesn't have any settlements at all, well, that means you have zero settlements in that sector. So that means you'll be getting zero multiplied by three, 0 points. So the objective is to not have any of the sectors lagging behind in number of settlements. You want to try and keep an equal number of settlements in each of the four sectors. That's the farmer's card. Lords, what that does is we look at each of the sectors individually at the end of the game, and whichever player has the most of their settlements in that sector gets 12 points. Whoever has the second most gets 6 points. And ties are friendly. So if you're tied, you both get the 12 points or the 6 points. Next, we have citizens. What the citizens card does is at the end of the game, you look and see where your largest cluster of settlements is. And then you get 1 point for every two settlements in that cluster rounded down. Then we have the merchants card. What merchants does is at the end of the game, you look at every single castle or location tile on the board. And if you have that castle or location tile connected to any other castle or location tile using a string of your settlements, then you get 4 points. Then we do that for every single castle and location tile in the game, and you get as many points as you can. Starting with the second row, we have the Hermit's card. What the Hermit's card does is it gives you 1 point at the end of the game for every single isolated settlement or group of settlements. So you're looking to have as many isolated settlements or groups of settlements as possible, keeping with the Hermit's theme because Hermits obviously like to be isolated. Next, we have knights. What we do for that is at the end of the game, you get 2 points for every single one of your settlements in the horizontal line that contains the most of your settlements. Discoverers, what we do again is we look at every single row on the board. There's 20 rows on the board. And if for every row that has at least one or more of your settlements on it, you get a point. So you can get a maximum of 20 points if you happen to have a settlement on every single row of the board. Then we have workers. For workers, what you do is you look at the castle and location tiles, and you get 1 point for every single one of your settlements surrounding and touching any of the castle or location tiles. And finally, we have the miners card. And what that does is it gives you 1 point at the end of the game for every single one of your settlements that is touching a mountain. Now we're going to take a look at the 8 location hexes that come in Kingdom Builder. In every game of Kingdom Builder, you're going to randomly pick 4 of the sectors, and each sector, each of the 8 sectors in the game, has one of these location hexes on them, and each location hex has 2 of the location tiles on them. And the way you get the location tiles is by placing one of your settlements right next to or adjacent to the location hex. And as long as there's tiles still available, you can grab one of the tiles. But careful because if your settlement ever loses contact with the location hex, well then you've got to give that tile back to the game, and it's taken out of the game, and you'd never get to use it again. So remember, once you're touching a location hex tile and you get the tile, if you want to keep that tile, you have to remain touching that location hex for the rest of the game. Let's take a look at each of the location tiles in turn. Starting with the one on the left, it's the one with the picture of the tower on it. What that allows you to do is take an additional settlement from your supply and place it anywhere on the edge of the board. And remember, location tiles do not have to be played. It's optional. You can play them either before or after you place your 3 mandatory settlements, but never in between the placing of the 3 mandatory settlements. And they're completely optional. You don't get to, I mean, you can use them or not use them. It's up to you. You can never use a location tile in the same turn that you get them, but you can use them on every future turn in the game. The second location hex is called the tavern. It's the one with the house with the red roof and the chimney. What that allows you to do is take one of the settlements from your supply and place it on the end of 3 existing settlements on the board in a row. So if you have 3 or more of your settlements on the board in a row, you can use the tavern tile to place an additional settlement on either side of that of those 3 in a row. The next is the one with the horses in a fenced in. That's called the paddock location hex, and that allows you to take an existing one of your settlements that's already on the board and jump it 2 spaces in a straight line. You can jump over other things, but you cannot land on mountains or water or other other settlements or castles or location hexes, as long as it's one of the five terrain types depicted on the cards, you can land on it. So that's a very powerful piece that allows you to basically take a settlement from anywhere and move it um, to somewhere else, regardless of what card you've drawn. The next location hex is the one with the ship on it. What that allows you to do is it allows you to break the rule of not being able to place settlements on water. If you have this harbor location tile, you can actually take one of your existing settlements on the board and move it to water. The next is the um, a picture of a farm. It's got a house and a field in front of it. What the farm location hex allows you to do is to take a settlement from your supply and place it on any of the light green um, hexes on the board. Then we get to the oracle. It looks like a mini Stonehenge. It's got like stone pillars. It's called the oracle, and what your oracle hex allows you to do is it allows you to place an additional settlement from your supply onto a terrain type of the matching the terrain card that you've drawn on that turn. And then second last, we have the barn, which is the wooden shack with the little wheelbarrow or cart in front of it. What the barn allows you to do is it allows you to take one of your existing settlements on the board and move it onto a hex, which is the same type as the terrain card you've drawn in that round. And finally, the big picture here is the oasis uh, location hex. It's got two palm trees surrounding an oasis, and what that uh, location tile allows you to do is it allows you to take one of your settlements from your supply and place it on a desert hex. And remember, whenever you're using any of the location um, hexes or location tiles, the number one rule of Kingdom Builder still applies. You must place next to one of your existing settlements if you can. Now that you have an understanding of what the end of game Kingdom Builder cards are, you'll notice that the three cards that have been randomly selected for this game are the Knights, the Lords, and the Farmers cards. You also now understand what the location hex tiles are and what they do, and the special powers that they give to each player. And so now we can realize that in this particular game, the four location hex tiles that have been randomly selected are in the top left sector, we have the tower tile. In the top right sector, we have the paddock tile. In the bottom left, we have the oracle. And in the bottom right, we have the oasis. So let's continue with our demonstration game. It's now the red player's turn again. And they have drawn a, a desert card. Since the red player is currently not touching any deserts, they're only touching the dark green and the light green terrains. They can place their tiles anywhere on any of the desert tiles in the game. So let's say that the red player is going to go. Let's say they're going to go here. And since they placed next to the tower location next, they got one of those tower tiles that they can use in all their future turns. Also, they you'll notice that the red player picked up the paddock tile last turn, which means that they're allowed to use it this turn. So let's actually do that. They're going to use the um, paddock tile, and let's say they're going to take this red. They're going to take this red tile and jump it over there. Okay. You'll notice that the red settlement that was in this location next has been jumped two spaces, one, two. So now that it's touching this castle, which obviously gets the red player 3 points, and that's the red player's turn. It's back to the green player who has drawn a brown canyon terrain cards. So the green player is able to place on any of the brown canyon cards throughout the board. They've been highlighted so you can see them a little clearly. But what the green player is going to do actually is before or after placing their three mandatory settlements, the a player can use their location hex tiles, and that's what the green player is deciding to do. They're going to use the tower tile that they picked up last turn, and they're actually going to place it right here. See what that does? That allows them to pick up um, the paddock tile from that location hex because they happen to be touching that location hex. And then, since they're still not touching any brown hexes, the green player can place uh, their three settlements anywhere they like on any of the brown hexes. And so, let's say that the green player is going to choose to place it. Let's say here, 1, 2, and 3. And that's the green player's turn. Right. So the game's going to continue like this. We'll continue the rest of the game in the second part of this video and in a separate video, and we'll put a link to that video in the description to this one. And that's basically the game. Just continue playing like that until one person runs out of settlements, and then at the end of the game you do final scoring.